Coming up on the Empowered Woman podcast.
Majority of the people that I talk to about investing, they either don't know where to get started, they get overwhelmed, or they say, oh, I just hand that over to someone. But they don't realize that when they are handing their money over to someone, that there are hidden fees and costs that are associated with that. So we really want to cut out the middleman and help people understand how to invest themselves.
Welcome to the Empowered Woman podcast, the #1 show on visibility strategies for women entrepreneurs. If you want to get empowered to be seen, stand out on social media, stages, TV, and more to make an impact with your voice in business, you're in the right place. I'm so glad that you're here. My name is Marcia Spurk, and I'm your host, professional singer and visibility strategist. Welcome again, and let's dive into today's episode. Hi, Jodi. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, it's so nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Well, I'm super excited to hear your story and also how you have been supporting people with more information on a very specific niche. Yeah, why don't you take it away? Tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, sure. My name's Jodi Jacobs. I'm the CEO and founder of Market Start. We are an online platform that helps people understand stock market investing. So I've been investing in the stock market for over 2 decades. I remember my dad talking to me about Apple stock when I was, between 5 and 6. And he just mentored me on it for, as long as I can remember. And yeah, I've been doing it for a long time. And just these past 5 years or so, we've started helping other people invest in the stock market and really just understanding the ins and the outs of the stock market, because it's just such a big, complicated vehicle for people to really grow their money. So
Well, I definitely want you to get into more details about how people could get started, but I want to hear your story. So you had the influence of your dad for the longest time, but when did you actually begin, like, all right, I'm going to do this actually for a living?
Yeah. So it's not the only thing I do for a living. It's actually more of passive investing for me. And that's what we try to teach other people as well, that you can, things like day trading, swing trading, those are the kinds of investments or trading that will just keep you sitting at your computer all day. But I've literally, I mean, so when you're young, you can't actually do it on your own, but you can study and you can do the research and you can have your parents make investments for you. So probably since I was a teenager, I started calling out stocks. Actually, probably even before that. I remember the first stock I ever asked my dad to buy for me was Disney. I was obsessed with Disney. I loved Disney snow globes, Disney portraits. What else did I have? Figurines. The figurines were the end all be all for me. Um, so that was the very first stock I ever asked my dad to buy for me. And after he did the research and showed me how to do research, that's really when it started.
Mm.
Yeah. So it's been a long time.
The business side of things afterwards, how did that come about?
In terms of owning my own business.
Yeah, and starting the website, the platform, helping people with this.
Yes. So that started during COVID. I was inspired by watching all of the other coaches online, just getting their businesses up and going. And because I have just been investing for so long, and the majority of the people that I talk to about investing, they either don't know where to get started, they get overwhelmed, or they say, oh, I just hand that over to someone. But they don't realize that when they are handing their money over to someone, that there are hidden fees and costs that are associated with that. So we really want to cut out the middleman and help people understand how to invest themselves so that they can protect themselves. They can protect their savings and they can save more by not working with a broker, especially when the majority of them don't even know what they're doing. And they can also make more because because brokers are only going to keep you so where in such a safe place for so long. And while, safe investing, if there even is such a thing, is good, it's also not necessarily going to grow your portfolio to the capacity that it can grow to if you're managing it yourself.
That makes sense. All right. Well, let's get into the nitty-gritty then. Why do people see it as stock market as something so complicated and many don't get into it like you suggest we should be getting into it? Why does it look like such a monster?
It does look like a monster, doesn't it? It's overwhelming. There's so many different ways that you can invest in the stock market, and really going about it and navigating it and understanding what best works for someone might not best work for someone else. So I guess that's the positive, is that there's so many different ways to invest in the stock market. And it depends on what your interests are and also your risk tolerance. But also, I think a lot of the complications come from the jargon associated with it and the terms. They really are terms that we use in everyday life disguised as something more complicated. So the terms, just even bull and bear. I mean, bull means the market is in a really good place, and a bear market is, when it's not in a good place. It's very simple. And because it's an industry of its own where people are trying to make money from it off of other people, they make it more complicated. The news, the media, the brokers, I mean, it's just technical jargon, but that is actually one thing that we do in Market Start, is we really break that down so that the terms are just more simple and understandable, so that you can hold an intelligent conversation with another investor, or know what a term means when you log into your brokerage account, or if you are listening to CNBC or the Fox Financial News, it's more understandable, of course.
So what would you say for somebody that has no idea, but now they're listening to you and they're like, huh, this is interesting, so it doesn't have to be so hard. When is the best time to start? Is it like just start getting educated now because you never know what opportunity is going to come about? What is your recommendation?
I mean, the recommendation is, if you don't, anyone can open up a brokerage account. Anyone can go in, they can open up a brokerage account, but it doesn't mean that they have to put all of their money into one stock or into the stock market at all. They can literally open it up, sit there in cash, and wait until they find something. I always recommend, at the very least, just downloading the stock app, or most iPhones have the stock app on the phone already, and just looking at it periodically throughout the week, or maybe even throughout the day, depending on what your day looks like, and just kind of get a feel for the ebb and flow of the market. Because if you can start stomaching the ups and downs of the market and the way it moves, the better investor that you're going to become. Because that's what the market is. It's like one big roller coaster. And even if you just put on the financial news, have it on in the background, you'll start to pick up things. So, I think there's a meme out there or something that says the best year to start investing was 20 years ago. Well, that doesn't really help anyone. So we say, start now and just start small.
Yeah, that's good. I like that advice, and especially having, I mean, this is something that people could do on their own, like you said. Start looking at the
Yeah.
app, start listening to the news, or even engage with your content and with your platform. Can you share a little bit more about the platform? So, how do people engage with it? Is it a subscription? How does it work?
Yeah, so we're actually changing it up. Before, it was just a one-time fee of a program that we had, but we wanted to make it more accessible
Yeah.
to more investors, whether they are new investors or investors who have been in the stock market game for a little while and they've lost money and they're trying to recover their losses. So right now it is, or we are at a point where we're changing it to a subscription-based program. And that subscription-based program is going to be about $24 a month. And you have access to all the fundamental or the foundational videos to actually get started. It is literally a step-by-step program on understanding your goals, understanding your risk tolerance, and literally setting up your first brokerage account. So you have those foundational videos, and then we're going to start adding in weekly and monthly information about the market, what's happening in the market, what's happening on a week-to-week basis, and possibly some stock picks. So yeah, there's so much we can do. We're really excited about this next chapter and what we're going to do and the direction we're going in.
That's awesome. And that sounds super simple, just like what you're saying. Anyone can open a brokerage account, and you guide people step by step on how to do that, and even give some tips on different stocks and things like that. So that is great. Do you have any stories that come to mind of people you've supported that had great success, or even your own stories, something fun, or maybe something disappointing that is a big one that you'd like to share? I don't know.
I will say that the stories that people come to me and why they start working with us the most is because they've worked with brokers that have lost them a lot of money. And it's really sad. And these are people of all ages, but I think the saddest, the most heartbreaking ones are the ones who come to me that are close to retirement.
Oh man.
And there's not a whole lot, unfortunately, at that point that I can do for them, because they should have started learning this 20, 30 years ago, but they trusted someone, they handed everything over to someone, and that someone turned out to not be a trusted source. They lost them money. And again, because a lot of the stories that I've heard, a lot of the people that have come to me about this are near retirement, and it's just sad. And so circling back to what you asked me before about when should someone get started? I mean, it's now. Especially, a lot of our members are between 34 and 48, and it's a really good time to start. It's never too early. It's literally never too early. And in fact, we actually even
Hey, let me ask you a question. Would you like to be my next guest on the Empowered Woman podcast? Do you have a story you'd like to share? Want more visibility for your business on a show ranked in the top 0.5% in the world? Well, then head on over to martasburke.com/podcast guest for more information.
Well, I wrote a children's book recently that breaks everything down. It's for children ages 9 to 11. I'm sure 8-year-olds can grasp it as well. It's a picture chapter book. It's called Tommy's Stock Market Adventure. And it's doing really well. And actually, we have a lot of adults that are reading it too, just so that they can really grasp the stock market and the terms and understand it. And it's done in an engaging way. And our illustrator is absolutely incredible. He does illustrations. He does a lot of illustrations for Disney and Pixar, and yeah, so
Full circle there.
yeah, yes, yeah, totally full circle. Yes. So, like I said, you're never too young to start learning.
Yeah,
And
I was going to ask you about the book, because based on everything you were just saying, like, especially with you at such a young age already knowing about these things and asking your dad to invest in Disney and all of that, obviously kids can get started understanding a little bit better. And that's such a smart idea too, because then the parents can learn as well through the kids. What was the inspiration for a children's book and not just a grown-up book? I'd love to learn more.
So it was actually exactly what you just said. It was, I think I originally wanted to write this for the parents. I had this vision of parents reading this with their children and helping them understand it and them getting a grasp for it as well. And actually, I've had a lot of adults come to me and say, I bought your book for my kid, but I read it myself and I learned so much. So that's always the best compliment I can get, because it's a safe space to learn. I really wanted a safe space for people to learn. There's so much gosh, just people, I think there are people that have invested in the stock market that just feel very territorial over it, which is so odd. But I've been in a lot of chat rooms, and I see beginners come into chat rooms and they ask a simple question, they just get torn apart. So my heart behind Market Start and this book, it was first and foremost to always just have a really safe space for someone to come where they can get answers and understand investing and not get yelled at for not knowing a term. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, that's what I was going to say. That's amazing that your heart is to just simplify it and help people really demystify the process. Because that's what you said. They create the jargons and they create the stuff because they don't want people to get in it.
Yes.
You're there to do the opposite and tell people it's possible for anyone. You can start at any time, right? I'm sure lots of people are going to be encouraged after listening to you to be able to check out your book or to go look into your platform and learn more. So that is awesome. I'd love to learn a little bit more about you personally. What do you do? Because you said because that's the image that I had of people investing. It's like I'm on a computer and I'm checking and I'm doing all kinds of stuff. And then you're telling me it doesn't have to be like that because you don't want to be on the computer.
No.
So what does a day in the life look like? What are some of the other things that you do since you don't spend all the waking hours investing?
Yeah. So I actually own a photography studio in Santa Monica. We have a staff of 21 employees, and this actually owning my own business has really helped me further understand financials and what makes a good company or a great company to invest in. So that that is something I have a team of staff and they're running the show. I'm so grateful for that. They're amazing. And so that I do pretty regularly. I am focused on that. I have to just make executive decisions every day about the business and our clients and staff. But investing, I mean, I'm not necessarily trading or investing every day because I am more of an old-fashioned investor where I do like to hold stocks, not necessarily for 5 years or an incredibly long time, but I'm definitely not a day trader. I have dabbled in day trading. And speaking from experience, I never recommend day trading. Because those are the type of trading jobs where you do have to actually sit at your computer all day. But there are peaks and valleys throughout the day. There are patterns that I do like to watch for that happen throughout the day. Because all of those small patterns add up to bigger patterns, and that's something that we talk about as well. So,
well, thank you for sharing about your other business, because that's encouraging for people listening to know that they have an upper hand in many ways because they're more aware of their finances, especially if they have staff, they have, payroll and things that they need to handle, to then look for companies that they would invest in because they already have a little bit of a notion there. And also the time, right? So you would think I'm going to have to do this full time. I can't. I have my own business. I have other things, but you're proof that that's not the case.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's I probably spend an hour on my portfolio each week.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit longer if there's a company I'm really interested in investing in. I'll do some more reading. We have something called the Wealth Builders Hit List that is a list of over 100 stocks and funds that it actually holds the person tracking the list accountable to look for those patterns on a week-to-week basis to decide whether the current time is a good time to buy a stock or sell a stock. And so a lot of my personal investing is based around that. And also I take that further by studying the fundamentals when I see something is in a good pattern to invest in.
I like that. Well, you've given us many reasons why people should start dabbling into and made it easy and simplified the process. But for
Good.
anyone that's still kind of on the fence and being like, oh, it's too complicated. I don't want to mess with that. I'll just stick with what I know. What are some of like the key benefits, like to really encourage people, consider this a viable option? What would you say are some of the benefits?
For what? Sorry?
To get started right now and not just think that it's such a hard thing or that they don't have the time, which we demystified all of that, but what are some of the other benefits?
Gosh, I mean, setting yourself up for freedom, eventually probably quitting that 9 to 5 job, saving for a dream vacation, or not necessarily saving, but investing for that dream vacation. I mean, gosh, it depends. Everyone's got different goals, whether they're short term or long term. For sure, having a nest egg and a safety net, first and foremost. A couple years ago, when my business was going through a really tough time, I was so lucky to have my investment portfolio to fall back on, and I had to use some of that money to fund my own business. I didn't have to go to an investor. I didn't have to spend the time to do that. I had that money. People fall into financial traps all the time. Something happens with their house, or there's a medical incident that happens. So it's good to have that chunk of money growing somewhere, so that if push comes to shove or a worst case scenario happens and you need that safety net, it's a huge blessing. It's just a huge blessing.
Yeah, that alone is worth getting educated. At least start with the book. Remind us what the name of the book is, and it's available on Amazon.
Yes, it's available on Amazon. It's called Tommy's Stock Market Adventure. And the little boy is named Tommy because that was my dad's name. And so I named the character after him because he was the one who taught me stock market investing. And he's the one learning stock market investing in the book. So yeah.
Wonderful. I love that. Well, I'll make sure and add the link to the show notes so people can check it out. Now, before you tell us how people can connect with you personally and learn more about your work, I like to ask all of my guests my $1,000,000 question. Are you ready?
Okay. Yes.
Jodi, what is an empowered woman?
What is an empowered woman? An empowered woman is someone who is her biggest fan. Someone who wakes up in the morning and tells herself that she's got this. She's her biggest cheerleader. She doesn't wait for anyone. Of course, there are people in our lives that we rely on and that are, our biggest supporters as well. But I think the empowered woman is someone who builds herself up, someone who takes action, someone who motivates herself and is self-motivated, whether they're doing it for themselves or their children or whatever. But they don't necessarily wait for that motivation to come along. They motivate themselves. That to me is the empowered woman.
I don't think anyone has ever said is her own biggest fan. That's fabulous. I love that. It's so true. We need to be our own cheerleaders, right? And
Yes.
that we have support system, we have people around us, but I always like to say we're the person we spend the most time with, so better be nice to ourselves.
Right. It's so important. It's so important.
That's awesome. Well, tell us how people can connect with you and also the website, the platform.
Yeah, absolutely. So the website is themarketstart.com. And they can connect with me at jodi@themarketstart.com. And of course, we're on Facebook and Instagram. Our Instagram handle is Market Start Official. We've got a ton of free videos on there as well as YouTube. And we have some free downloadable guides as well about getting started in the stock market and also about recovering stock market losses.
That's great. I'll make sure and put all those links in the show notes. Thank you so much for your work out there in the world, helping people become aware of the possibilities in the stock market. And thank you for coming on the show and sharing with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great being here, and I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope this episode empowered you. And if you enjoyed the show, please join the Empowered Woman community on Facebook and share with friends or leave a review on iTunes so more people can discover this empowering message. Until next time, bye.